morning.
Guten Morgen.
I have here in mini form. So exciting. So now I'm dyeing.
Packaging some packages, and I just realized my freaking tape roll ended.
Hello, welcome to A Homespun House. My name is Molly and I am the dyer creator behind A Homespun House, and I will be chatting with you today about all of the things that I have been knitting. But first, a sip of coffee. So those of you who have purchased or been a part of our Hygge boxes will know that I have been curating them for 4 years now. I think this will be my 4th year. And you always get some sort of pottery in your Hygge box. Initially, we were wholesaling with Doghouse Pottery, and now that we are located in Germany, I'm wholesaling with a wonderful potter named Basha who lives in Berlin, Germany. And she makes the most beautiful things. This mug that I'm drinking out of with these beautiful speckles. They almost have a rose gold color to it. I just think they're absolutely beautiful. And then here you see my lipstick, which gets on everything I drink. So this is our rounded white speckled mug. For those of you who are interested, we also have candlesticks, soap dishes, tapas, plates, and quite a lot of different mug styles. So I hope that you guys enjoy these. And I'm now selling them in the shop. Before, we've only offered her pottery and just pottery items in Hygge boxes, but I really want to slowly gather hand makers in the shop, and that's why we have Leine, Simply Serving, Joka Kerzen, and Monty Pots, as I said, and I hope to slowly bring in some more things in the shop, but I have just been enjoying the heck out of Basha's pottery. She does such a beautiful job. All right, time to set this aside. I'm realizing that it would be really nice to have just a little side table here to set all of my things on while I'm chatting with you. I'm going to start off with something new that I have recently cast on. Or you know what? On top of this basket, I have something that I plan on casting on. So Chelsea from Chelsea Makes Patreon, she's half of Legacy Fiber Arts, and I decided it would be so much fun to do a festive sweater make-along. And what that contains is you knit a sweater. You knit a sweater that is holiday themed, be it whatever holiday you celebrate, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, so on and so forth. And you knit it in colorways that make you think of the holiday season. And it could be a colorwork sweater, Fair Isle sweater, cabled sweater, anything, any pullover you can think of, whether you started it 5 years ago, started it last year, a month ago, or have plans of starting one on. And so the plan is to be finished with these sweaters by 2021 Christmas season. I have chosen a colorwork sweater, and these are my 4 main colorways for this sweater. Here I have, from starting on this side, Oatmeal, Copper Kiss, Scandinavia, and Fern. And I'm knitting this sweater on our non-superwash yarn, non-superwash fingering base. And the sweater that I have decided to knit is the Festive Doodle by Caitlin Hunter. It's absolutely beautiful. I already have my pattern printed, and I plan on knitting this pullover, or at least winding up the yarn, I don't know. Sometime this month would be really nice. I'd love to get the yarn wound up this week, but we'll see if that happens, because I have a sweater that I'm currently working on. That is my 3rd no-frill sweater. So I've knit a full no-frill sweater out of our indie colorway along with fresh sheets. We have kits for that in the shop. And then I've knit a no frills pullover out of Nurture and Fresh Sheets again. And now I am knitting a no frills sweater out of a brand new colorway. Should be in the shop today. So hopefully sometime this evening, Berlin, European time. And that sweater is right here. It's so beautiful. So I am knitting this out of, again, our non-superwash fingering. I love this base so much. This is the Hearth colorway. It's so beautiful. I feel like it almost glows. It has a really pretty, almost rose gold tinge to it. I'm not sure if you can see that, but it is stunning. It's one of my favorite colors. I have a store purchased pullover in a colorway very similar to this. And just this winter, I've realized that I wear my no frills sweater all the time. It is such a nice layering piece. It keeps me so warm. My first one I knit with non-superwash yarn along with the mohair, and this one I just thought, you know what, I want to keep extra warm, extra dry, and I'm going to knit along with a non-superwash base for my fingering weight. And then for my mohair, this is also Hearth. So one thing that I want to talk about as far as mohair goes is because you have that silk base in there, that core strand will generally pick up a different sort of color tone and not as saturated of a color tone as the mohair ringlets around the core. So that's where you'll see more of that glowy rose gold sort of color in that core strand. And that's why generally if you decide to purchase a 100% animal fiber yarn or superwash, which can contain nylon, which is clearly not an animal fiber, and then you purchase the same colorway on a mohair silk yarn, it will be quite different. However, the pairing of the same colorway can be so beautiful because you have that more iridescent colorway for the core. And that's just normal when you're knitting on different bases. Colorways always show up very differently from base to base as far as saturation level, speckling being a bit more runny or a bit more sharp. It really just, colorways are always varying from base to base. So I am absolutely loving this knit. I'm having a hard time putting it down. I've just cast it on in the last week and gosh, I am in love with it. So pretty. I am not alternating skeins. Now, I dyed this for myself very, very carefully with the knowledge that I was going to be knitting this as one pullover. I only need a little more than 2 skeins to knit my size. I'm knitting the size small. I'm following the pattern exactly as it calls for, using Haya sharp needles, which we carry in the shop, and I'm using the 3mm and 4mm needles exactly as the pattern calls for. So yeah, I'm not changing anything, and I am knitting this using something else from one of our boxes of Hygge. Lindsay always creates a progress keeper for the box, and this one is so sweet. This cozy little kitten wrapped up with this little sort of almost Scandinavian style flower on her back. I absolutely love her, and she's just so cozy on my sweater. And then I have my pretty little stitch markers, which my good friend Heidi gave me. So I love to knit this up and have a little memory of Lindsay every time I go around, and then a little memory of Heidi as well. So that's a lot of fun. I've really been enjoying knitting sweaters lately. The balloon cardigan that I just recently finished, I also didn't alternate skeins on that. Now, I'm not trying to say that you should not alternate skeins of hand-dyed yarn because as we all know, you can get a lot of different pooling or striping, or you can have big color block effects. But I feel pretty strongly, and especially non-superwash tonals, that if you are very, very careful with how you dye them, how you're laying them out as you dye them, how you prepare them, you can get a pretty good consistency with the way that your colorways are looking on a tonal non-superwash yarn. So I feel very, very comfortable in doing that with my non-superwash fingering as well as DK weight yarns. All right. Socks are still on my needles. I am currently working on not another pair of Jelly Roll socks, although I know I need to cast on that pair for my youngest daughter. She did ask for a pair she wants a colorway that is pinks, yellows, purples. I feel like this colorway would be so perfect for that. This is our It's Friday, I'm in Love colorway, and it just is a beautiful peachy colorway with, I don't know, beautiful mustardy yellows, and it almost has a chartreuse colorway in there, some purples, bright pinks, and I think that could be really beautiful for a Jelly Roll, and I haven't thought about the 4 minis that I would pair with this, but I think this one would be really fun because it has so much less saturation than the other 2 pairs that I knit with Oracle, and then I knit the other one with Beltane, which I don't have in the shop, but that's a green colorway, and I feel like this would be really, really fun, and it would be interesting to know if she would wear them. Elodie wears both of her pairs. As long as they're clean, she has them on her feet. The next pair of socks is a pair that you guys have already seen. This is our Saturday morning socks. This is the first one. I don't have kits for these in the shop yet. I know that I thought that I would have them in the shop last week, but I was only able to get the Jelly Roll kits dyed and ready for the shop, and I don't generally like doing pre-orders for yarn. And we already have Harry Potter pre-orders in the shop. So if you want to head on over to our 20 gram minis collection, you'll find some fun Vault collection Harry Potter mini skein sets in the shop. So that's enough for me as far as pre-orders right now. I don't do them often. So these will be available once they're all dyed up and ready. All right, so this is my second sock for my Saturday morning socks. I have my cuff cast on. This is our Jello tonal colorway. And then the body of the sock is knit out of Antique. This is that same colorway that I knit my balloon cardigan out of. It's one of my absolute favorites right now. And Elodie would like a short sleeve tee knit for her out of Antique is what she's thinking. So then we have this really beautiful blue. This is our denim tonal colorway. And then it's a little bit difficult to see the other colors in here. The green is Fern. And that's it. It just calls for 3 minis and 1 main color for the sock. So these are a lot of fun. I'm using Haya 9-inch needles, which we also have in the shop. I love doing color work on 9-inch needles. I haven't dabbled too much into just stockinette stitch knitting socks on 9-inch needles. I've done it from time to time, but I love knitting socks on double pointed needles. I really, really enjoy it. I get into a great flow when I'm knitting socks on double pointed needles. And I don't know, I've been doing it for years. It's how my grandma Sue taught me. And I've tried quite a bit of other methods. Magic loop, I think I did that for quite some time. It's definitely not my favorite. I've never done 2 socks at a time, although when I was a young teen and working at a yarn shop, that was all the rage. We constantly had classes on 2 at a time socks on 2 circulars. I remember that was really, really popular. My favorites are double points. I do like 9-inch though. It took me quite a while to be comfortable knitting on 9-inch circulars. I hated them at first. I can remember I ordered a pair maybe 3 years ago, and I tried knitting a sock on it and I sent them back because I probably knit 1 inch, which is about 2.5 centimeters, and my hands hurt so bad. I could not understand for the life of me how any person could knit comfortably on 9-inch circulars. And I don't know, once I really had a desire to knit colorwork socks, it somehow came easier. I knit colorwork socks, I pick and I throw, so maybe it's just a different way of holding my needle than just normal knitting, whereas I pick. But I also don't have a problem knitting stockinette on 9-inch circulars now that I've been using them for quite some time. But man, I really had a struggle with it because I really enjoyed knitting on double points so much that I thought, why learn to use something else when I already enjoy the method that I use? The problem was when I was knitting color work on double pointed needles, my color work was coming up quite uneven at the needle edges. I talked about this a little bit last week. And I'm so happy that I kept with it, and yeah, it's just changed my colorwork sock knitting. The final project that I am working on is yet another pair of socks. I'm knitting these out of double pointed needles. So I'm knitting a pair of socks for Robert. He requested a leg not as long as his previous pair of socks. If you guys remember, I knit those out of lingonberry as a tonal and Syrah as a main colorway. So here I'm using our plump merino base. It still is a long leg, but it's nothing like it was before. The last leg was basically a stocking. So this is Tegan, the cuff. It's quite longer than my normal cuff, but he really likes a long cuff. And then I used the darkening. I think this colorway is so much fun. I love the way that it speckles. I did a heel flap and gusset. So I knit these on a 2.5 millimeter needle, and I cast on 64 stitches for Robert. He's 6'4.5", and he wears a size 14 shoe. And now I've finished my gusset increases and I'm at the foot. I have a super sweet Berger progress keeper here, again from Lindsay of Simply Serving. Robert is our burger maker at home, so I thought that this was just perfect for his sock. And then I was at home one evening and I didn't have any knitting with me. I had all of my knitting here in the studio, and I happened to have the other half of my 20-gram mini skein of Tegan at home, which just worked out so wonderfully because we started watching Breaking Bad a second time again. We haven't watched it for years. And so we were sitting and watching it, and I grabbed the rest of this skein. I grabbed a set of Haya sharps. The sharps are my favorite. Haya has a lot of different needles. We only carry the sharps in the shop because they're my absolute favorite. Of every needle I've ever tried, I love Haya sharps. So anyway, I grabbed a set of 2.5 Haya sharps, and I knit my cuff. Now I didn't have the sock with me, so I had to stop at some point because I didn't know how long it needed to be. And oh my goodness, it looks like my eye was pretty good because, do you see that? I knit a 1x1 rib here. And here I knit a 2x2. Shoot! I'm going to leave it. Funny thing is, I don't even think Robert will notice. But it's funny because you can see how much this one gathers in more than the 1x1. I definitely prefer a 2x2. Why did I do a 1x1? I wonder if it's because I had been knitting the 1x1. There is our coffee machine again. I wonder if it's because I was knitting the 1x1 on my no frills neck. And so I just did that. I don't know. I don't think I've knit a 1x1 rib on a sock in quite some time. So that's strange that I would have done that. Just so weird. Anyway, I'm enjoying it. It's fun to have a stockinette sock on the needles again, and just something that I can pick up whenever I feel like it. Robert really likes the colorway. He usually goes for brighter colors, but I really love the darkening colorway and I wanted to knit something with it. So I said, what do you think about me knitting you a pair of socks out of this? And he was pretty excited. Now that the weather is turning around and getting a lot warmer, I'm so excited to start playing around with plants and flowers. And yesterday I emptied all of my raised beds out on our balcony. We have 4, 8, 12 boxes and then just some beautiful little terracotta pots around our balcony. And So yeah, I cleaned those out and I repotted some of my indoor plants, took a little bit of care of them. They needed a little bit of care. So I did that outside, and both of my daughters hung out with me on the balcony, and they just had a lot of fun playing with all of the excess soil from the plants. And yeah, it was really wonderful. In the evenings, we have been journaling together, and that has been such a wonderful thing. I've been journaling since I was little, and Ruby cannot write. I mean, she can write her name, she knows the letters, but she can't write sentences and things like that. So we have a really lovely collection of stickers and washi tapes, and sometimes she'll ask me to write things on her journal for her, little phrases, little lists of favorite things. But we have such a wonderful time each evening or every other evening journaling together, listening to some music, chatting about feelings that we've had or things that have happened throughout our day, things on our minds, things bothering us, things exciting us, and then just writing about it in our journal or not writing about it in our journal, maybe painting something in our journal. It's been really geared towards art journaling, and we really love doing it together and look so forward to spending that time together. We will be offering an art journal box this spring and summer to the shop. We love it, as I mentioned, and I know that a lot of you are very interested in. Well, I've shared about it on our Patreon a couple of times, and it seems like a lot of you would love to have an art journaling box. So they will be limited. We use traveler's journals for our art journals, and so you can decide if you'd like a traveler's journal along with your art journaling subscription, or if you'd like the subscription without your monthly traveler's journal. There can be a month where I fill up a traveler's journal in 1 month. There might be a time where a traveler's journal takes me 3 months to fill up. So you'll have the option every month of whether or not you'd like a new traveler's notebook. And I hope that you guys love that. I'm about to head on over to the studio table as I have 3 big carts filled with dry yarn that I need to wind and label and put stickers on and get those in the shop for you. I am adding a lot of new tonal colorways, mostly next week. Some will be popping into the shop today and tomorrow, but next week is when there will be a massive overflow of a lot of new colorways. So I hope that you guys are excited about that. All right, time for me to get to work. It was great chatting with you all. Have a nice day. Bye.